was hungry, would you pour your spirit on me, Lord? Would your glory fall like the water fills the sea? Living water, cover me.
Smart people. You figured out this screen is broken. And so everyone shifted over to this side. Very smart. Yeah, we've got projection bulbs and light bulbs going out around this building almost weekly. So it's a fun process to deal with, very exciting. If anyone actually does know about electricity and could explain why our light bulbs go out so often, I would love to know. But you can replace a light bulb and it'll be dead in 2 weeks. So anyway, that's a thing, but it has nothing to do with what we're doing here today. So we're just going to get going here. So who can tell me what the golden rule is? Anyone? Just do unto others? Okay. Do unto others, anything. Just do unto others. Okay. Now, next question. This one's a little bit harder. Who here, without even the slightest deviation, actually lives the golden rule? Yeah, that was a little hard. Carlos, like 25% there. His hand went like this high up. Okay, good, almost there. So I'm sure we all make a concerted effort to actually try to live the golden rule, but likely very few of us do it all that well. And I admit I'm not a perfect person at the golden rule. Although the co-founders of our Unity movement were two people that were probably the ones that came pretty close. You know, a few people on the planet have come pretty close to pulling it off. I think that they came pretty close to pulling it off and living into perfection of the golden rule. They role modeled what that would look like if you lived that life, constantly living in the golden rule, and they strongly encouraged all of us to endeavor to do the same, which was put into writing that they did in books and letters over and over again. They talked about this process, but nowhere more concise than in the Unity's 32 statements of faith, right? You knew I had to get around to that. So Unity's 32 statements of faith are sort of their manifesto of what the Fillmores believe to be true and what they want to pass on to us as a guiding light of how to live a life. So here is statement of faith number 25, where they blatantly say, "We believe that the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, should be the standard of action between men." Now, just because they use the word men, don't think you women get off the hook here with the golden rule. Back then, as we all know, men was sort of a catch-all for everyone. Today we might say women and men. We might just say mankind, humankind. But the golden rule can be found in just about every religion and faith. And we've got nice little posters in the bookstore that show how it's stated in the different faiths if you're interested in that. But the one that Fillmores are actually referring to here, the specific wording they're referring to here, is from the book of Matthew in the New Testament. So in the book of Matthew, Jesus is giving his Sermon on the Mount, which is in some ways also his own manifesto about his life and our human journey back to Christ consciousness or Christ awareness. So here's how he put it in full. "In everything do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets." If you recognize the wording is a little bit different, it's because I used the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible, which is a little bit more modern language if you're used to hearing it from the King James. I'm sorry. So let me ask you this. What, out of all that, are the two most important words? They're next to each other, if that helps. I'll give you a hint. In everything. In everything. You see, we usually skip straight to the part of the quote that says, "do unto others." So when we all mentioned it earlier today, we went straight to "do unto others." We skipped to that part of the quote. But it actually starts with "in everything." So what's wrong with skipping to the meat of it, you might say? Well, you can see that how leaving out the words "in everything" sort of softens the statement, sort of softens the meaning of the statement. Without the words "in everything," it gives us room to apply it as we see fit or as it conveniences us. So, "I will do unto others who are deserving, who are like me, who are not annoying." So that's sort of how we take it without the "in everything," or "and I will do it only when they are deserving, when they are like me, and when they are not annoying," which highlights the hypocrisy of the human condition. We are 100% on board with the golden rule until it inconveniences us or it makes us uncomfortable. Which reminds me of something I heard someone say, and it impacted me. It stuck with me this long, and I think about it once in a while, but I can't remember who said it, so the person didn't impact me that much, but the statement did. It's a little bit shocking, but I'm just going to put it up here because I didn't say it. It's just something I heard. This is what they said. Christians will do everything they can to save a child from being aborted, but when that child grows up to be gay, they couldn't care less what happens to it. Interesting, right? That has stuck with me. Just the wording and that concept has really stuck with me since I heard that probably a couple years ago. So this is, of course, a very controversial statement. It's sort of hitting both sides, which is partly why it stuck in my mind when I heard it. I was thinking, this is not something you really can say in many gatherings of any people because someone's going to be offended. But I'm not to go into what is right and wrong about it. That's not why we're here. But I do think it points to, in somewhat of a shocking manner, our relationship with the golden rule. When it is convenient and comfortable, we find it applicable. When it is not, we tend to ignore it, which is really what we do with anything we don't quite understand. And for me personally, that is taxes. Many times in my life, I have put a lot of effort into trying to understand taxes, only to discover that the more I learn about taxes, the less I know. Anyone else ever been in that boat? It might just be me. One person, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate that. We're not alone. So this has been a very frustrating process for me. So my solution is that I have just ignored them for the last 20 years. And it has worked out great. And oddly enough, I find that by not doing taxes at all, it leaves more money in my pocket, so it's a win-win. Who's on board with that? Come on, it's working out really well for me. You wish. Actually, my way of ignoring them is by having someone else do them. Right? Because I've accepted the reality that there are one of two things going on with taxes today. Either I am not intelligent enough to ever understand taxes, or taxes have been designed so that I will never understand them. And as long as I don't understand them, they remain inconvenient and uncomfortable for me. So I prefer to ignore them as much as possible, which gives us some insight as to why we see so many people ignoring the golden rule.
Come on, guys.
Just in the nick of time.
Right. So we're going to sing this song over and over, and we invite you to sing it with us as soon as you feel comfortable. It's a beautiful song called Oneness. There's a presence moving softly in the quiet of my being, calling softly all the time. One heart, one mind, one life, united and divine. There's a presence moving softly in the quiet of my being, moving softly all the time. One heart, one mind, one life, united and divine. There's a presence moving softly in the quiet of my being, calling softly all the time. One heart, one mind, one life, united and divine. Let's do the a cappella.
softly in the quiet of my being, calling softly all the time. One heart, one mind, one life, united and divine.
One more time.
There's a presence moving softly in the quiet of my being, calling softly all the time. One heart, one mind, one life, united and divine. One heart, one mind, one life, united and divine.
Yeah, thank you, Farouk. So here's something to think about. What if the reason we, by and large, don't practice or follow the golden rule is because we don't understand it? It's a pretty straightforward thing. I think upon first read, we all think we get the gist of it. But what if we actually don't? And that's the reason we don't actually follow it. So consider the possibility that all of us assume we understand it. But in actuality, we avoid it because deep down, we don't really get it. I'll try to prove my point with an example. So it's do unto others as we would have others do unto us. Does this mean that if you like to receive hugs, really long, close, tight, awkward hugs, that you should give those same types of hugs to everyone you meet? Yes or no? So some people might say, well, other people don't want to receive that type of hug. But the golden rule says probably that you should. And that is the exact problem I once ran into at a human resources training I was attending at the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas when I worked there about 10 years ago. The trainer was talking about appropriate ways to interact with coworkers and guests coming to the hotel and all that stuff. And the trainer culminated in saying this: it's really quite simple. When you get down to it, just follow the golden rule. Now, little did the trainer know, she had a self-proclaimed masochist in the class that day. A very self-confident and outspoken masochist at that, who actually made a great point when he said this: well, I'm actually a masochist, so the golden rule doesn't apply to me. I like suffering, pain, and humiliation, which would be horribly inappropriate, if not illegal, to do unto others. Interesting, right? It's a valid point. So I thought, well played, my friend. Who can argue with that? That's sort of a checkmate, game over for the golden rule. You wiped it out for all creation. No longer exists. Well done. Except I will tell you who can actually argue with that, and actually who did argue with that is this guy in the middle of the class. I can't resist stuff like that. So, but, and rightly so, that was not really the time or the place to get into a debate about masochism and spiritual biblical teachings. It wasn't really the venue, even though I was ready. It got shut down by the teacher just as it was really getting exciting between the two of us, which was unfortunate because it could have gone to a fun place. But during our brief exchange going back and forth, I realized a grave misunderstanding that likely many people must unknowingly have about this rule. And it all centers around the word you. As you would have them do unto you. And the ego hears that and says, oh, I get it. It's all about me. It's about what I want, what I like, what I believe to be right, appropriate, normal, acceptable, and true. It's all about me. You equals me. The ego says you means it's all about me. So we come to the golden rule thinking it about me. And how do we apply it according to me? If you don't like what I like, then there is something wrong with you. If you don't view the world from the same tiny microscopic perspective that I view the world from, then there is something wrong with you, and therefore the golden rule does not apply to you. That's where we take it, and that's what was actually unfolding in that class that day that I was trying to point out, which this person really wasn't in the place to hear. And the discussion actually continued on after the class into the hallway, and then we actually wound up sharing desks later on when we both got promoted into the same room. So we got to have that discussion over and over again. It was quite fun. And this is why religion so often gets dragged off course from its original intent of inclusivity and understanding. Humans inject an egotistical identity of me into a spiritual message that was all about we. It happened thousands of years ago, and it is happening today over and over again. Many of us show up on our spiritual journey looking for what I can get out of it, what is in it for me. And actually, that is a healthy and natural way of coming to the spiritual path. We have a problem in our lives, we have an emptiness we're trying to fill, and so we're seeking a way of getting our needs taken care of, our needs healed, or our problems solved. But the issue arises from the fact that many of us don't ever evolve out of this state. We stay in this what is in it for me mentality on our spiritual path. We show up to churches and synagogues and mosques and to retreat centers. We show up to temples, meditation groups, and classes. We show up with the mindset of what do they have for me and how can I get this thing that I need from this particular group of people. We show up for me, no matter where we're going. But these types of organizations and groups survive on a we mindset, not a me mindset. And there is an unsustainable. Dan, will you come down here and finish this talk for me? You're clearly more on it than I am. Actually, I'll just give you my notes up there, and you give the talk, and I'll sit down here and enjoy it. Yeah. This is a totally off-topic side note, but very fascinating. Did any of you know that Mike Tyson has a one-man show? Mike Tyson has a... Raise your hand if you knew that. He came through the MGM Grand and actually did a residency there for a while as a one-man show. He just talked about his fighting career and everything else. But the reason this applies, and it's funny because his girlfriend was off stage, and he had an earpiece, and she was literally feeding him the entire show. And he was saying it as he would hear it. So she sat like a little book on the side of the stage. I hope he doesn't ever watch this. He's going to come attack me. But that's how it worked. But that's how most things work. You'll find out if you work in show business. Someone is actually running off stage. Anyway, totally off course. So there is a, Dan, unsustainable tipping point when the amount of people showing up for me outgrows the amount of people showing up for we in any group, class, organization, retreat center, whatever it is. And that tipping point creates sort of an energy vacuum that cannot be filled. Churches, spiritual centers, faith-based organizations of all sorts all around the world are closing today at an alarming rate right now because we are at a point in history when far too many of us are showing up for me instead of we. We sit on the outskirts of a group or organization and only dip our foot in just enough to get what we want out of it, and then we pull back away again, making sure not to commit ourselves to it so we don't have to become accountable to the community itself. And this is us sort of just making energy withdrawals with no deposits, and therefore creating an energy vacuum in that space that cannot be filled. But there is a shift taking place right now at Unity of Boulder, and the staff and a lot of the leadership has sensed this shift that we recognize as a movement towards commitment and ownership in the community itself. And that is a shift from me to we. We are coming here not for ourselves, we are coming here for the collective. More people are coming to us and looking for ways to give and to serve and to be a part of this community and to support it as one of the community, which is a giant shift in collective consciousness of a community like this. You see people showing up quite often saying, well, actually still doing this, but not everyone, saying, you know what, if you had said this in your talk, it would have been a lot more impactful to me. Or, you know, if you did the lighting this way, it would have been a lot better for me. And they're really looking at the whole experience based on, if this was all designed just for me, this is how you do it right. And sometimes I actually have said, you realize there's 100 other people sitting in the room with you, right? Did you look around at any point in time? That is a shift from a me experience to a we experience for the collective or the community or the whole. What are we all getting out of this, and what can I contribute to that to help us all grow together? The problem with what you see very largely on the spiritual path is that as people begin to evolve spiritually, they step out instead of re-engaging to help those who are struggling lower down the rungs, if you will, to get to that same place. They say, you know what, my life's feeling good, I feel better, see ya. But then the next person shows up struggling in a me mentality, needing some help and assistance, and there's no one there to help them get where this person got when someone else helped them do it. So it's really a communal idea that you have to think about. So we recognize that more and more people now are actually asking us about membership. How do I become a member in Unity? How do I become a member of this community? What does it take to become a member? And that is really what the Golden Rule is all about. And that is how the Unity movement itself actually became what it is today, with over 500 churches around the world, thousands and thousands of people. It's not just about fulfilling the needs of the individual. It is about what is best for the whole, the collective. That is the part that is missing from most people's understanding of the Golden Rule. And if Jesus had spoke English at the time when he was giving his Sermon on the Mount, I believe he would have spoken better English words as it pertains to the Golden Rule. Words which more appropriately state the meaning and intent of the truth he was sharing. I believe he would have said, in everything, do to others as y'all would have them do to y'all. For this is the law and the prophets. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's about y'all. What is best for the whole? What is the highest and best for everyone and everything involved? That is what we should do. My argument or my disagreement with this gentleman at the classroom that day was I said, do you really think the Golden Rule is about your particular desires? I said, people like to feel good. You help them feel good. That is the Golden Rule. If you feel good by poking yourself with needles, that doesn't mean you poke other people with needles. You help them feel good. We like joy. We like feeling content. We like peace. We share these commonalities. That is what the Golden Rule is about, creating more joy, more peace, more contentment. Not our specific individualistic tiny ways of finding these things into our lives with our limited mindset and our ridiculous idea of how life works. It's about the holistic approach of creating a better life for everyone involved. What is best for the whole? What is the highest and best for everyone involved and everything involved? That is what we should do. And if we don't know what the highest and best for everyone and everything is, then we need to start meditating more until we begin to awaken to something that is greater than just me and mine. If you're not hearing the call to something greater than just me and mine, it's time to tap in and open up to something a little bit bigger. Most of us are showing up into every situation with what's in it for me and mine. at the expense of the collective. We're making withdrawals without leaving deposits. So we have a new membership system here at Unity of Boulder that we're unveiling, that we've been talking about with the board for a little while. We've also had some meetings with congregants about it, and we've sort of put this thing together. And we're going to be unveiling it in the coming weeks, and we're hoping that people are going to be really excited about it, because it's a way to take a community from the idea of showing up and there's something I do and I leave, to recognizing, no, this is a greater part of my life, that I'm not only showing up to receive, I'm showing up to give. I'm not just showing up as a student, I'm also a teacher to the other people around me. We're all in it together to lift each other up simultaneously and leave no one behind. And so that is the truth as I experience it. And if you have questions about that, I hope you'll stick around afterwards and we can have a conversation. So let's take some time to do that, to meditate, to go into the silence, to quiet our minds, to quiet the me and mine and the little voice inside that says it's all about my wants and desires, and to tap into something greater and deeper. So I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable, sit with your spine straight. Relax yourself into this space. Become aware of your breath. Become aware of your posture. Making sure that the space between the tip of the tailbone to the top of the head is straight, aligned, open. If we could get ourselves out of the way for just a little while, what would be there? If we could step into situations, and instead of the first thought being, how can I become more comfortable? How can I make this work to my advantage? How can I find someone I know? If we stepped into every situation thinking, what is mine to do to lift everyone and everything here higher? Instead of looking for what we can step on to gain advantage, imagine if we saw ourselves as a step, helping to lift others up. If every time we had an insight or a growth or an expansion in our own awareness, we didn't keep it to ourselves, but we modeled it to help others see what it looks like. Not that we force our ideas on those around us, but we help create the experience of it in their lives so they can feel it as well. If I'm experiencing a moment of joy and bliss or peace, then I am called to help others experience the same. Even if I'm in a state or a place where I'm not feeling these things, we recognize that the universe is designed that just by helping others feel it, I'll begin to feel it too. Every time we catch ourselves getting caught in my drama, my problems, my desires, my dreams, where I want to go, how I want to experience this situation, it's a calling to step back, to slow down, to maybe find a quiet place to sit, to be still, to tap in. To be silent until I feel that voice, that stirring, that energy pooling up inside me that recognizes something much greater than how I see the world. much greater than my plan. I begin to expand my awareness to all people and all things, recognizing a collective benefit, a collective peace, a collective joy, collective bliss, and I find it in the silence. It's so much more gratifying to show up in any situation already content, with no expectation of what I'm going to get out of this, but just showing up open to serve, listening for the call of how my skills can help benefit any situation. And so as we go forth now from this meditation, this moment of silence, we hold on to this expanded awareness that recognizes something greater than me. We hold on to this expansive peace and stillness, and so it is. With a few more breaths, we bring ourselves back into this time and space. And when we're ready, we open our eyes. So part of the membership process that we put together is requirements of giving and serving. We recognize, this actually reminds me of another minister I was talking to that had a board, like every minister has, to help him run the church. And he said he spent years with this gentleman on this board that just didn't seem to be jiving with everyone else, especially when it came to finances, when running the church and dealing with everything they had going on. And they got into a meeting once, and the person got agitated, and he said, you know what? I've never given money to this church anyway. I don't even care why you're having this conversation with me. And the minister said at that point he realized he has people on his board that have never, ever given a dime to the organization that they're overseeing the money for. And he said, I realized he said, that was on me. I had no system in place to make sure I was getting people onto the board that were dedicated enough to the church that they were invested in it, not only financially, but spiritually and through their gifts and their talents. So that's something that we're going to be working towards, something that we're putting together, and not just a path to membership just for the sake of being a member, but a process to help you spiritually grow through this process. So that membership is a level of growth that we attain, not just being a part of an organization. Anyway, so this is our giving and serving segment. We do have many ways to give, which are up on the screen, all the digital ways you can give, but we also have the baskets in the back if you have something physical with you today that you'd like to give. If you're watching or joining us via live stream, we invite you to join us in these ways to give as well. And I believe we have one more song. And I hope they're back there this time.
Child of this universe, the ocean dances at my feet. The wind plays a melody through my hair. I am loved at every turn. I am kissed by Mother Earth. I am a child of this universe. The sun warms me in its embrace. The stars have aligned for me in the sky. I am honored by all life. I am held by Father Time. Every blade of grass, every shaking leaf on a tree, every mountain top sings of the glory of God, moving through all. I am a child of this universe. Through my breath, all of life can breathe. I plant the seeds with my every dream. I can love at every turn. Give a kiss to Mother Earth. I am a child of this universe. I greet the God in each face. I am a channel for peace to flow. Oh, I honor all of life. Yes, I'm one with Father Time. To every blade of grass, to every shade